So it's growth mindset here. Kern Watts here with Orlando. Let's spin it to you.
How you doing? Glad to be back. My name's Orlando Iglesias. I had a friend of mine reach out, Ian, and he's with Athletic Edge trainer. They train a lot of athletes, all sports, but they specialize in basketball as well, but just all sports. And one of the things that he kind of wanted us to kind of talk about was what was the expectation on moving from high school to the university level in your first year. And I thought this would be great to bring it up in this discussion because a lot of the feedback that he's getting are from basketball players, but I know you played Kern. For people who don't know out there, Kern Watts played baseball at Arkansas, went to the Final Four. Evansville, he played for Team Canada, very accomplished in baseball. And then also I played at the not only the professional level, but also at the University of Houston. So I thought it was great if we give our point of view just to show like a lot of their basketball players that this is not just a basketball thing. This is just college athletic, what we go through and what the expectations are and the mindset that you have to have jumping from high school to the university level. So can you just give us a nice little snippet of what did you expect and what did you go through when you went from your senior year of high school? Now you're going to Arkansas to play baseball.
Okay, so my high school, I think I said before last episode, but we were really good in baseball in the province of Ontario. We won 3 out of 4 years. And so I started there. I was the only freshman to make the team. And I knew my role was I was one of the faster guys. So my role was to get on base and to steal. And so as I grew older in high school, my role changed. I was more of a senior role. I needed to gather people. And then so going from high school, where he'd been successful, going to Arkansas, it was a world of a difference, needless to say. But I knew that there was a role that I needed to be in to be on the team. Not only that, but to facilitate winning in the university. And so I looked to the coach and to learn as much as I could, be a sponge from others, to adapt to that. So I didn't go in thinking I was the best thing necessarily, but I went in as an opportunity to grow and how I could better help the team win at all costs. And so I knew for me, it was my speed, awareness in the outfield as well, just being athletic, scoring runs, putting the ball on the ground. Obviously, they wanted me to drive the ball as well, but not hitting long fly balls and getting outs. That was not my role, right? And so obviously it was to be a person of character as well, and represent the university and the baseball team, even when I was off the field, right? And that came with getting better grades, right? But it was to be a part of a team, a winning team, continue to win, and utilize your tools to the best of your ability and know your role. At every stage I've continued to progress in life, knowing your role is key because you can help the team better with knowing where your strengths are. And I've said it before, I'll say it again, but Bruce Lee has a quote. It is to know oneself is to know others. And so to know yourself, know your strengths, it puts you in somebody else's shoes. You see what you bring, the value that you actually bring to the team. And so that was my mentality going in. That was, I guess, the perception throughout the year. It kind of changed, and I don't know if I wasn't ready for that. I don't know if the coach articulated that to me in an appropriate fashion, but that was one thing that I realized different at the university level is that can change, right? Your role at the beginning of the year can change into a different role at the end of the year very quickly, especially with the university sports and how quickly they can change. What about yourself?
For me, the shift between high school and university was really um, the no excuses. I think when you're in high school, you had the ability because you were the man or I was the man. You were able to have excuses on why you didn't do something, or I'm too sore not to do this or to do that. And you got away with it because your talent. They say there's a stat out there that says, like, for every D1 player out there, you actually might only play against only one other D1 prospect, depending on where you are in the country, right? So a lot of times, your athletic ability is so much greater than everybody else in high school, so you get away with a lot of things. So for me, the mind shift when I went to university, it was eye opening, because I went from the star, and then you go into university, and everybody's a star. Everybody was a star where they were from. There's no more missed days. There's only makeups. There's no more excuses. Everything it's definitely a business. Everything is mapped out. You get up at 5 a.m, you work out, then you take your shower, you go have breakfast, you go to class, you come back, you do your tutoring, and then you have practice, and then you do some more tutoring, right? And so when you're going through that whole process, I went to like the last person on the depth chart, and all I can remember is, man, I was promised that I was going to compete. I was promised that they'll give me a chance to compete. And so I remember, like, in two-a-days, when everybody's in shorts, right before two-a-days, everybody's in shorts, everybody looks good. This other freshman is catching one-hand balls or whatever. And I remember I called my mother, and I was like, this is ridiculous. Like, I'm not getting a chance to compete. Like, what's really going on? And I remember my mother saying, shift your focus. Everybody looks good in shorts, son. The men separate themselves from the boys in the trenches. And my mother is telling me this, and I'm just like, what? And she's like, yeah. She's like, when you guys put on pads, you show people why you're there. And I remember I went from possibly wanting to quit to saying, okay, my mom has a point. And I remember when we used to do one-on-one drills, and that kid who was making the one-hand catches in shorts, and we had to do drills against each other. And it was like, oh, Orlando, be the stock dummy and block. And every time he came up, I just hit him right in the chest and just slam him on the ground. Every receiver who came, I was just going 100%. And I learned this from my receiver coach. He was like, I'll never care if you make a mistake going 100 miles an hour, but I'll always be upset if you go half-ass on my field. Half-ass gets you hurt. And he's always said, so I always went hard. And needless to say that I went from probably the last person on that depth chart behind two seniors, a sophomore, and a freshman, till I remember, with everything that I did, was listening to the coaches. Because the most important thing, too, is that I want people to take away from this is not so much your physical abilities. The most important thing is knowing the playbook. Because the only way that you can go full speed is by knowing the playbook. What do I mean by that? What I mean by that is, you're at your best when your natural ability kicks in. But your natural ability only kicks in when you're no longer thinking. When you think too much, you second guess yourself, and it slows you down just a tad bit. And that tad bit that it slows you down, then you're not the greatest that you can be. So what I did, while everybody else was partying and doing whatever as freshmen, I was in there learning every person's play. So I was like the X, the Y, the Z. I was learning everything. So if somebody went down at the Z, even though I played the X, the coach didn't have to say anything. I was running all the way to the Z, and I was running those plays. And I was the only one who was actually doing that at the time, right? And so I think that gave me a leg up to fully be in the position to, when that senior got hurt and pulled his hamstring, I actually stepped up, and now I'm starting against Alabama, the first game of the year, and I end up getting like 5 catches for like 70-something yards on a DB who was a first-round draft pick, right? But that couldn't have happened if I didn't, one, buy into the system, two, work hard. Because if you don't work hard and you don't know your playbook, there's no way that you can get on the field. And three, I had to let go of an ego, right? What do they say? Ego stands for ease God out, right? So you have to let go of that ego of thinking that you're the man, because now you're no longer a man. You're actually truly part of a team. So even though you might not start, you're still, every week in and week out, you're in there to help your team get better. Whether you're on the scout team is just as important as the starters, because the scout team is the one who gives the starters the look in order to do their best on every Saturday or Sunday, whenever you play, right? So yeah, so that's my thing. I think if when you're transitioning to the college level, you got to really change your mindset and understand that you're there to learn and to push other people and to push yourself to be the best version of yourself.
Yes, that is good. You said something about slacking in high school, right? You have the natural talent and you could slack off. And I would say that's something that I've just had ingrained in myself. Like even since freshman year in high school, I felt, no, you need to prove yourself why you need to be here. And so my mentality since then was championships are won and lost when no one is looking. So,
Absolutely.
so you've mentioned before, oh, you should have done more sprints and you only did
Mhm.
two, right? Or your coach leaves early and you don't finish the lap, right?
No, absolutely.
Right.
Well, me per se, I was blessed and cursed with a coach who didn't play any of that stuff. So I mean, this was a man where we lost to a team that we had no business losing to. And when we got off the bus and we thought we were jumping in the showers to go home, he had us practicing in pitch dark, full uniform, hitting after a game, and brought us back the next day on Saturday to practice again. Right. So definitely had a head coach who really prepared me for the next level. But I know that there's a lot of kids right now, and even the way just the sports is that if you are a superstar, you do get away with that the favoritism, right? They slide you, right? And sometimes if you're too hard on a kid, then essentially what ends up happening is what they let that kid. Then that kid wants to transfer or go, right? Like back when I was coming up, there was no, you couldn't transfer. Like my mom wouldn't allow me to transfer, right? I tried to transfer my freshman year, and the woman looked at me dead in my eyes, God rest her soul, and she was like, if you think you're as good as you think you are, you can do whatever you think you can do in this school as you think you can do it on that school. But mom, that school goes to the state all the time, where if you're as good as you think you are, you can take your team to states. And that was her mentality. She's like, you gave your word to that school, so you went there as a freshman, so now you're going to graduate from there. And she told me the same thing when I was in university. I was like, I don't know if this is for me, mom. She's like, you know what? Give me 2 more years. And I was like, well, 2 more years, I only need 1 more year to graduate. She said, exactly. So, so it all really depends on who you have that's around you, who pushes you. We all need, no one makes it anywhere on their own. So
Mm-hmm.
you always need someone on your team that's going to be authentic to you and is going to tell you when you're messing up, when you're doing good, right? But not just to ride you the right way, right? I think sometimes we look for yes sirs all the time, and when you're in sports, you don't need that. You need somebody who's going to push you, right? You need that one friend who's going to always want to go to the gym with you and push you. But you also need that within yourself, because when that friend is not there, or if they go to a different school or whatever happens, you need that internal push to be great yourself. So as long as you have that in yourself, because no one can put greatness in you, you have to bring the greatness out of you yourself, right? People can believe in you, and in return you start believing in yourself, but not until you believe in yourself does that greatness come out, right? So yeah.
And another thing, you talk about greatness, and there's some people that win at an early stage in life, and they think it came easy, and they never try again. And I've always had the opposite mentality: is that I've tasted that gold, and I won't slack because I know how sweet it tastes.
Mhm.
And if you lower the bar, so my whole thing is like raise the bar. Don't ever go low. When you have the choice and you say, you know what, I don't need to do this. Or you're bench pressing and you're supposed to do 8 sets or 8 reps and you do 6 and you're like, I'm done. I always push and get the 2 more. Even if you set the bar down, you always got to finish. And the reason is you don't know what you're missing if you don't do it. You do not know what you're missing if you don't do it. But
Yeah.
if you've been successful and you've done it, why would you take a chance at losing that success? Why are you going to lower the bar and say, what is the minimum I could do to get this success? Because there's going to be a chance that you don't get it. And then you're going to wonder why I didn't do those extra 2 reps. Like, why did I do what would I have had inside of me if I would have done those?
Mhm.
And so whenever in your mind you say, I could do this, I don't have to do this, do it. Because you don't know what you're missing. You don't know what that is preparing you for mentally.
Absolutely, right? I mean, we've always talked about this, and I've always said it. Like sports is actually something that prepares you for life, right? The adversity that you face, the teamwork that you go through, and the bonds that you build, that really prepares you for everyday life, right? Like you go through everything in sports to prepare you for life, and I feel like you're right. You have to have that internal push in yourself to do something, but also you have to be mindful of the people who you surround yourself with. So you have to surround yourself with people who are going to hold you accountable. Because a lot of times, like what I see right now in today's day and age, is that if you're really good now, like coaches don't say anything to you. There's no consequences. You can not go to practice. You can skip practice. You can disrespect people and you still continue to get those breaks. But what these young athletes don't understand is as soon as you get out of high school and you try that same, um, you have that same mentality going into university and you try those same tactics, those university coaches have seen talent like you, it's a dime a dozen to them.
Mhm.
So now this is why these kids are getting cut or they can't cut it. But I don't think it's necessarily them. I think is that they were misguided from the beginning because they didn't have somebody to truly hold them accountable, right? And that's where I think that I was blessed because my coach, he held us accountable from the beginning. Like he didn't play. Like I remember he took over going into my junior year. And I remember the quarterback and myself, our receivers coach ended up going to a different school in the same district, and he was trying to get us to transfer. And so my quarterback was trying to talk to me to transfer with him over there, and I was like, man, my mother is not having it. And I remember when the coach came in, he called a meeting with us, and I was like, man, Rolly, like, here he is. He's about to, try to, hey, don't leave this and that. And we went into his office and we went to sit down. He's like, oh, don't sit. And we were just like, huh? He's like, no, there's no need to sit. This is going to be quick. Um, I hear you want to transfer. Get your shit out the locker and get out now. Because I'm going to win with or without you. The bus does not stop because of you. It will continue to roll. And Rolly looked at me and I looked at him. I was like, oh, this is the conversation we thought was going to happen. And then Rolly was like, well, what you mean? He's like, listen, I want people who want to be here. I'm going to win. We're going to do something special. Now, you're either a part of that or you're not. So grab your stuff and go. Or if not, I'll see you here tomorrow morning early to lift. And guess what Rolly did? We were there an hour before lifting started because we knew from the beginning that man, he wasn't playing. Like you can tell when somebody tells you something, you can look at a man in his eyes and you know if he's playing, but that man was dead serious. And so I knew at that moment that was a person that I wanted to play for.
Yeah.
Because
And
he just he reminded me, that's how my father was, right? Like my father didn't play. My father was like, if I tell you something and I tell you I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. Like if you give your word, you do it. I'm not going to kiss your butt. I'm not going to do any of that. As a man, you're supposed to do what you're supposed to do. So once that happened, it was like, and we ended up having the best 2 years of that school ever, right? We ended up going my senior year. We ended up going to states. We ended up beating the #1 team. I mean, we lost right before we got to like the quarterfinals or the semifinals of the states, but we ended up beating the #1 team in the state in Killian. And so, yeah, like he did a great thing. But I wish that a lot of athletes would have a coach like that would be very upfront with them about their recruiting, about their talent, where they can go, and what they need to do in order to get to the next level.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And that's what it is. I remember he used to always tell a lot of guys, he's like, listen, man, like Rolly and Orlando are going to get D1 offers, but they're going to struggle to get those D1 offers. So what you guys got to do is whenever these other coaches come to see these two guys, you better shine on this tape in order for them to see you and acknowledge you. But before he said that our senior or junior year, it was like Phillips was at our DB. He's like, he's going D1. Orlando, if you want to be recognized, you better beat his behind in practice every time. And in the games, you better shine, because when people come to see him, you want them to put that tape on and be like, man, who's this number 80? And that's exactly what I did every day in practice. Where you going, buddy? Come on. I want you. And he won some. I won some. But in the end, it made us better. He ended up going to Tulane, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's good. Iron sharpens iron.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a life lesson in itself, because that is a big fish in a small pond going to the next bigger pond where there's bigger fish.
Absolutely.
And do you shrink and shrivel up, or do you rise to the occasion?
Yeah.
And so I think that's a good point for us to end on. But it's all about rising to the occasion and overcoming that adversity. So thank you for tuning in to Growth Mindset. Hope you learned a thing or two. Please like, subscribe, and comment down below. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Good night.